What are your thoughts on how the offseason has gone so far, I guess?
It's been solid. We're doing our self-scout stuff right now. And then obviously getting ready for the draft, doing the draft stuff in the afternoon. But it's been good to get those guys back that we had on our team last year that hit free agency. It's a good nucleus of our team and leaders on our football team that we feel really good about moving forward.
Is there, there's fans always want, obviously, shiny new objects. You were a team that was a player or two away from the postseason last year. If you bring back that same group, the conventional thinking is, okay, you haven't progressed, but can you not grow, from that existing group?
I think you definitely can. Yeah. I think consistency and continuity is huge in this league, and I think that's what we have with our guys, and it's guys that you believe in, and it starts with their character and the people they are and the way they work, and those are the guys we sign back that we feel really good about. So we're really excited about the future with those guys moving forward.
You're a big fan of Pittman. Last time we talked to you, just to know you'll have that number one seat on the outside for the next few seasons as you build this with Anthony. I guess where does your mind go? How exciting is that opportunity?
It's very exciting. We got a guy that's a consistent player week in and week out. Like I said, you've heard me talk about him for a while, about the toughness and the dependability that he brings to our team is huge. So to have that and then get that chemistry working with him and AR this offseason and going into training camp is going to be big for us.
He's kind of – go ahead, James.
What does it mean to have Joe Flacco and adding him to obviously a young quarterback you have leading the franchise, but having him obviously is a resource?
Yeah, well, Joe's resume speaks for itself. The experience that he's had in this league, obviously played a ton of football, won a Super Bowl, played really good football last year for the Browns. So to add him to our quarterback room is going to be big for our football team, and not only our team, but also Anthony. And he could share those experiences that he's had throughout his playing career and how he kind of sees the game. And I know he's talked to you guys a little bit just about how he talks to those guys and simplifying certain things. Will be awesome to have him.
Pitt's kind of talked about how he thinks he has more upside as a downfield receiver. He just hasn't really been able to show it yet really in his career. Do you see that out of him, that he can kind of be that ball winner, that deep threat?
Yeah, he made a few plays for us this year. Obviously, we hit one versus Baltimore on a double move down the field, and then we've had some other things for him that we just didn't get thrown, whether the coverage didn't take us there or whatnot. But yeah, we'll work through those things this offseason and going into training camp.
What about his yak ability? I think about the play against Jacksonville, but just that run after the catch ability that he has too. What's hands up on that?
He does. And when he gets balls in hands, he's explosive. He hit the one against Jacksonville, he hit the one against Cleveland, for the 75-yarder on the little slant route. Made a guy, broke a tackle and went the house. So he does have the explosive playability for sure.
With Joe, you talked about how you could work with the mobile back end, you could work with a different style. Just stylistically, how do you think it's going to fit? Just what do you think? What excites you, I guess, about his specific skill set?
He's got a big arm, and you guys heard me say this before about the backup quarterback, right? They come in all shapes, sizes, mental capacity, all those different things, and he's a guy that's done it at a high level. Smart, dependable, all those things. And again, you don't get a lot of reps during the week of practice. You don't get any. So you got to have a guy that you feel confident about going in on limited reps during the week and can go and perform, at a high level if need be.
When you guys talk about getting more explosive plays, I'm guessing that's a goal with Anthony, but does it help to know you have a backup that's his wheelhouse? He can kind of build it into both?
Yeah, he can definitely push the ball down the field. He's been doing it for a long time, and still did it, last year, and obviously looking forward to that this year with him in practice, and go from there.
Not to ask a Philly-centric question, but since I'm here, did you happen to follow? Obviously, there was only so much crossover film, but did you follow what happened in Philadelphia in terms of, and then how you became kind of like, the loss of you and the offensive aggression? A lot of people attribute it to you having to you going.
Yeah, I didn't follow a ton. Obviously, I didn't watch a lot of tape. We didn't have a lot of crossover games. Obviously, I saw the records and stuff, but I think offensively they were top 10 in almost every category again. So they were pretty darn good offensively last year, and yeah.
Are you curious at all to see what a hybrid of Nick and Kellen looks like? He's talked about, that both will have influence in the offense. Kellen.
Yeah, we'll see how that thing goes. I got a lot of respect for both Kellen and Nick. Both obviously really good football coaches, and excited to see, their 2024 season.
Having collaborated with Nick before, how do you think that process will go for Kellen when he gets there?
I think it'll be great. You know what I mean? Nick and Kellen's a bright mind, obviously, and I think it'll be a great collaboration with those two.
Shane, there was a lot of talk about the Eagles' lack of pre-snap motion. I know you don't want to talk about that, but I'm curious from your perspective as an offensive mind, how do you view pre-snap motion on how, like, the problems it causes for the defense? How do you integrate it into your offense?
I think if it gives you an advantage, I think it's huge. And then sometimes, too, if you feel that you can run a base concept using motion, not knowing exactly what the defense might do, it gets them to communicate a little bit, and that's when you use it.
You were around Nick a lot. In terms of dealing with adversity, the Eagles had a bad end to the season. How do you think he'll deal with next season, just from your experience of being around him, the pressure of,
I think he'll be great. Obviously, he loves football. He loves grinding. The person he is, you go attack every season. Every year is a new year. And so you go attack it the right way with the right mindset, and you go out and give it your best and see what happens.
He said that sometimes.
How much do you guys end up talking to each other during the season, you and Nick?
Not a ton, you know what I mean? We're so busy, so, not a ton. Talk to him a little bit after the offseason. Obviously, when things settle down is when I usually talk to coaches more after the season, yeah.
Nick said he felt like he could control his emotions more sometimes. Do you think that's possible for him to be anything other than he is? And do you think that's something he needs to do sometimes, to just be a little more?
I can't speak on that for him. But yeah, he's a passionate person. He loves the game, and like I said, he's going to give everything he has to it.
How much, contact you had with just Anthony? I saw him at the Florida game, moved his arm pretty well. That's pretty exciting. But just seeing him and helping him gets prepared for year two.
I'm super excited about year two with him. We've had some good conversations throughout this process, throughout the off season. I like where he's at. He's progressing really, really well. Like I said before, he's just getting better and better. But again, looking forward to that spring with him. He's already heard the terminology, gets to hear it again, and then going into training camp and just getting those reps with the guys is going to be big.
How can that OTA process for Anthony benefit him this year, just coming in now that he has?
Yeah, I think with anything, your accelerated vision and just getting in the huddle, for one, is big. You've heard these same words, you've heard the same play calls or a version of them. So I think that process is going to speed up. And I've said this before, the guys that play a long time at a high level have been fortunate to be in some of the same systems for a long time. That's why I think the continuity of certain players and certain pieces are huge. And just to keep hearing that verbiage is going to be big for him.
Is that like the details of it, he can now hone in on more of those as opposed to I'm just learning how to call the play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be around some guys, and Phillip Rivers being one of them. You guys know I've coached Phillip for 4 years or whatever it was, 5 years. And just he knew our offense so good that it was when he broke the huddle, it was just what are they doing on the defensive side of the ball? I already got this part figured out. I'm trying to get wired up on here and not worried about where guys are lined up and this and that. So I think as you get going in an offense and understand it and learn it better, it's gonna be great for you.
When you started watching Anthony last year about this time or last spring, I don't know what your initial impressions were before you started, before you dug into the tape, but I think the general public probably thought he was a big, strong guy, athlete, and all that. But then there was also I felt this other side, when I watched him just a little bit, I saw man, his pocket presence is good, and he's not looking to run, he's playing quarterback, all that. When did you immediately pick up on the other stuff, the non-physical stuff? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, going through that process and meeting with them and talking football, you could see the football IQ was there. And then the biggest thing was the character. I mean, you guys have seen what he's done in the community already in his first year, even with the injury, just the person that he is. And I think when you're a good person, you want to be, you're going to grind at your craft because you want to be great. And in the meetings, he asks really great questions. He really does. And so that part's really good. I mean, he fired one out. I don't remember when it was, but he's like, well, what if we get a corner blitz here? I'm like, corner blitz? Because they see corner blitz in college a lot, But I was like, oh, that's a good question. I've never thought about it because we don't get a lot of corner blitz, But he sees those things, which is huge. And you could see even when he played this year early on, he had a really good feel where to go with the football early. You know what I mean? And it might not be his first read, but it would be like a guy on a jet motion, and it's like, I'm going to throw an over. Oh my gosh, no one covered the guy on the jet motion. Ball. And like he popped one against, who was that against? I think it was Tennessee. It was early to Downs. And boom, and Downs went down the sidelines for 20. But I was just like, oh, they didn't cover him. He saw it too. He's like, here, ball. Like, you can't.
That's playing quarterback.
That's playing quarterback. That's playing quarterback. Like, he knows that stuff, which is huge. And it helps as coaches, like that processing speed of like, oh, you guys busted here, ball.
Because you can't coach everything.
No, I mean, you can have a guy that can go out there and sometimes, be a robot and be like, you told me 1, 2, 3, check down. Like, yeah, I did, but they didn't cover the guy,
What's that balance like when you have a player like that? Because he can do things that are special, but it's like you want him to be free, but you also want him to be like, I guess, measured in those takes.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you have to have rules. You got to have a disciplined way of looking at the football game, but you also got to have a feel to it too, especially at that position. The best guys that I'm fortunate to be around have feel to the game, and they kind of see it that way, and it's like, shoot, if it's not there, but shoot, this guy's off 10 yards, and I know he's my fourth read, but no one's covering, I'm throwing it to you. I think those guys are special.
Are those the plays as a coach that get you almost as excited about Anthony as like the spectacular ones, like the one where Donald's wrapping him up, like the ones where you're like, that's a quarterback?
Yeah, absolutely. On the sidelines, you're like, oh, there it is. I'm like, shoot. Because sometimes you see it on the sidelines too, and you're like, I know it, coach. No one's covering that guy over there. Throw it to him. And then when they do, you're like, perfect. So there is a balance, though. You don't want to go too far down that road, but you still want to have structure within the scheme, obviously.
Having been a coordinator in Philly, what's the key to surviving in that city? When it comes to it's a lot of pressure, sometimes with your fans and everything else.
Yeah.
What's the key to surviving that?
I think you just do your best every single day, and you grind away at your job, and hopefully you have success on Sundays. You know what I mean? But the biggest thing is doing your job to the best of your ability. And when you're watching that tape, finding the little nuggets to give your players an advantage day in and day out. I mean, that's what you have to do as coaches, and do everything you can to, be the best you can.
Okay, what in your mind made Jalen, his leadership qualities came under question this year?
Say that again?
Jalen's leadership qualities came under question because it's such an even-keeled demeanor and things weren't going well. That didn't look as great. What are your experiences with him as a leader?
He was great. Obviously he made a ton of plays when I was there, and he did again this past season. And he's a guy that leads by example, and he's a workaholic is what he is, and he works and he grinds and he wants to be great. And you can see what he's done the past 3 years offensively, and the numbers that he's put up are huge for that team. And I think he's only going to get better.
Can a quarterback be a quiet leader?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been around those type of guys for sure. Yeah.
Is there anybody you can?
I'm not going to go to any example, but yeah. I've been around.
Is it more difficult for that position, though, than any position to be a quiet leader?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, there's guys that are quiet leaders, I'm sure, that have won Super Bowls that are quiet leaders at that position. So, I mean, shoot, we almost won one. You know what I mean? But he'll say, when something needs to be said, he'll say it. There's no doubt about it. I've heard him. So.
This might be a silly question, but I'm actually being serious. I think one thing I've learned over the years, coaches, they work, obviously ridiculous hours.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people wonder, what the hell are these guys doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mean to be flippant, but it's probably a fair question. You have nights when you don't go home, probably, right? I mean, what is the most time-consuming part of the job? Do you think? Because there's meetings and all that. That's still this.
I think game planning. Game planning is the most time that you put into it, but then not only that, after you game plan for those hours, you have to put together the scripts for practice. You got to do the cards for practice, and then you got to get ready for the next day because you're going to meet again in the morning. So that just adds up. And then sometimes, you play a team that does some different things, you know what I mean? You're like, shoot, we got to have an answer for this and this and this and this and this. And then that's where, sometimes gets a little later.
Right, and that's what I was wondering, because I think you can sit there, there's always another scenario that you can plan for, anticipate, right? And is that where you find yourself, maybe, I don't want to say chasing your tail, but there's that potential?
Yeah, because you don't want to get caught. It's like, shoot, they've done this a couple times, but you know what I mean? If you don't prepare for it and it hits you in the mouth, you're like, well, that's on us. We saw it, but we didn't do anything about it. That's a problem.
How do you sleep before games? Legit, how do you sleep before games?
That's a good question. I
Or does
don't
he
know.
sleep?
Right. Vampire.
I don't know. I find a way to go to bed, and I wake up in the morning and hop on the Peloton, get a little workout in, and head to the stadium.
Just because, like, how do you, like, when your head hits a pillow, you're like, oh, shoot, if they go to this, look, on third down, we got to go to, like, how do you just, like, clear your mind of that?
I've been, obviously, I've done it as long as some of these other guys have been doing it, but I kind of go through that process in the morning, you know. At home, I'll do that in the morning when I wake up, you know, after I do the Peloton, and then when I get to the office at the stadium, I'll go through it again. Yeah.
Chris Ballard just talked about the need to sort of be a little patient with Anthony. You know, he's excited to come back from the injury, but just making sure that he's 1,000% and not speeding him up. So what's the balance between that need, but also you know how excited he is to get out there?
Yeah, I think he'll be good to go for spring practice. Obviously, we got to limit it and monitor it, and don't go overboard like you just said. But I can't be more excited to get him back going again. You know, his limited sample size that he had in those first 5 weeks were impressive. I mean, he made some plays that I've never seen guys make, and to get him back going, training camp, and get him through a full season, couldn't be more excited about that.
It's such an ongoing conversation about his, keeping him healthy, using his rushing. I'm just kind of curious how you process that, like when you're building out this offense now, where it was just not a fluke injury, but like, I don't know, how do you factor in all that conversation with?
Yeah, I think we're going through that process. There's always and will always be a fine line there. Like, we need to go make plays, and sometimes making plays might be him running the football. Sometimes him making plays might be in the pocket. You know what I mean? And injuries happen, but obviously we don't want it to happen to that guy. So we'll work through those things, constantly working through those things, and we'll go from there.
This may seem like an obvious thing, but, like, how big is it that he just doesn't take a lot of sacks? Like, on those plays where he's getting pressure and he's able to avoid it, either to throw it away or to, even just attempt to pass.
It's huge.
He feels it.
To eliminate those negative plays, are huge to not take sacks. And, whether throwing it away or scrambling and making a play are big. So we're excited about that.
Like as a play caller, 2nd and 17 is way different than 2nd and 10.
You got any good calls for us?
I don't.
Yeah.
There are no good.
Yeah, those are the worst ones. Like 2nd and 20, you're like, all right, what do y'all like here? Let's get it back to something.
It's 6, right?
Yeah. If we can get 10, we'll be all right.
This might be maybe a unique question, but I'm curious. Have you ever talked to your players about just their mental health recovery after games, just because of the, I guess, added spotlight they have now, especially with like gambling and things like that? Like, do you ever tell them, like, or have they ever come to you or anybody else just like unplug or find a way to get through some of those like tough
Yeah, I think some of those guys, whether it's their family members, or they have someone to talk to get through those things. I think guys do a good job of that, to have that backbone, if things don't go well, to fall back and that person to let them know that everything's going to be all right, and you learn from that game and get better for the next one.
Anthony, obviously, the way the injury went down was unfortunate. Is there, this time of year, though, once he's through that, is there almost sort of you sense maybe more fuel? Is there something, some positive that can come out of the experience he went through that can maybe make this time of year even better for him?
Yeah, I think so. I think in life, I've said this to the team, like, you don't know why certain things happen to you, I think everything happens for a reason, and I think what happened to him is going to make him stronger. And I know he's super fired up and ready to roll for this, this spring practice and training camp in this season.
So is the anticipation that he will be available for spring practice? Or?
Yeah, I'm not going to say for sure, but he should be decent, yeah.
And assuming having him, JT, like those two together, Pitt, like how much do you think just the continuity of having all three available early on this year and building with those guys and knowing like everyone's hopefully healthy?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that, to see those guys on a daily basis, going out there and practicing together and building that chemistry like we talked about, and carry that through the summer and in training camp and then into the season. It's going to be great.
Anthony's in this high-pressure spot. I mean, high draft pick, and he talked about kind of dealing with that, not being able to answer it late in the season. Are there things he can learn from Joe, who's, Joe Flacco's a first-round pick, who's He's started a Super Bowl. He's signed that big contract. Are there things that you think he can kind of bring into that quarterback?
Yeah, I think he hit it with you guys the other day is the simplification of the game and how he looks at it. And, I was with him that short time in Philly, but even the conversations that we had in that quarterback room, he did. He would simplify things as simple as like, hey, get your eyes over there and throw it to the open guy, So I think that's going to be great, to have his wisdom in that room, his knowledge, obviously, and the experience that, he has and played a ton of football. So we're fired up to have him.
Is it just why you think about, you got one quarterback who's 18 years older than the other, started like 180 more games, like just the uniqueness of this room?
Yeah, no, it's unique, but I was with it with Philip Rivers, who was same type of deal, and we had a young quarterback too in there. Obviously, Philip was the guy, but I've been in that dynamic of that room like that. So
along the age lines, have you thought about like you're a little bit younger than
Joe? Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, shoot, obviously I'm the head coach, but Philip was 2 years older than me when I was his position coach, so been on both sides of it.
Shane, what did you like about Joe Flacco for Philly?
What I like about him?
Yeah.
The guy's a competitor. He's a winner. He's won a ton of football games in this league. He's got a big arm. He's won a Super Bowl, so we're super excited to have him.
What's the next step, I guess, for Josh Downs? Obviously, a really good player.
Yeah.
But I guess, we talk so much about Anthony's development. He's a rookie, too, and he actually played all 17 games, and seeing that and going from that.
I think with anything, whether it's a quarterback or a receiver, it's just diving into the details and the fundamentals of your craft and really taking that next step mentally from a coverage standpoint and how defenses are playing you and knowing the style of defense you're going against. I mean, because these coordinators bounce around, you know what I mean? The coverage techniques, really honing in on those things to run certain routes. And then I think, really looking at, other players too around the league, like the best of the best. You always learn, iron sharpens iron, you learn from the best. And like, hey, how does this guy run this route? Well, shoot, let me take a little piece of this from this guy. Let me take a little piece from here and build it and make it my own. So I think that'll be big for him going into year two.
Josh, I mean, when he plays 17 games, and there's a concern like a guy that size going across the middle, how's he going to hold up? And he's found a way to play 17, and that's kind of been his career. Have you picked up on is there something unique about his playing style that lets him survive that way?
I think it not only is his playing style, it's his preparation. Like, he is constantly working in that building. Like, I've seen him in the hot tub, I've seen him in the cold tub, I've seen him in the therapy room with the game readies on after meetings at night. The next day he's in there taking care of his body. And I think the guys that have longevity in this league do whatever they can to constantly take care of their bodies day in and day out, and that's what he does, so it's good.
As you kind of like wrapped your head around the skill sets of, guys last year, Q, how long did it take you to realize you can do some creative stuff with him?
Right when we got there,
yeah.
his tape, must have been a Pro Bowler every year he's been in the league, so his tape was huge, and so we kind of knew what he was capable of off the film, but to be around him has been awesome. Just a great leader, a grinder of a worker, tough as it gets, and he's going to show up for us every Sunday.
There's that one play it was on one of the deep balls against Tennessee where you had him pull and absorb a bull rush from Danico Autry. Just like
fourth play of the game.
The ability to do that and trust him to do that. You can't do that with everyone. Right?
Yeah, no, you got to have a good set line when you're coming out and knowing how that defensive end is going to play that block.
Yeah.
And he's great at that. And obviously hit a big play there on that.
Let's do a couple more, then we'll shift outside.
Sure.
What's the excitement when it comes to Jelani Woods getting healthy?
I'm excited to see Jelani. Obviously, the sample size that I've seen has been small because he had the injury and was out all year. But getting him healthy and getting him back out and watch him run. Saw a little bit obviously of his tape. When he played a year ago, but really excited to see him in the spring and training camp.
Yeah, I've seen the workout videos on post on Instagram. He's huge.
He's big. What's up, Tim? How we doing? What's going on?
Not so much. Just a general question about the tight end position and sort of the importance of it in the modern day NFL, how you've seen it sort of evolve.
That's a great one. I've been fortunate enough to be around some really good ones, and Antonio Gates obviously being one of the best to ever do it. But I think there is, some serious benefit in it, especially, getting matchups inside on linebackers and safeties that you could take advantage of. I think that's big. And then in the run game, too, you're seeing don't know if there's so many of the true like wide tight ends. There's a couple of them out there, you know what I mean? But it's more you see these pass catchers that are coming from college football into the NFL that are learning how to do that stuff. But I really think you do have some benefit inside the numbers with those guys, taking advantage of, like I said, with the linebackers and safety matchups are big. And I think it is a huge part. You look at the teams that have won a lot of games, they got, a good dude that can do that stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zach. You got it.
What's up? How we doing, man? Good to see you.
As far as like Nick giving over the reins of the offensive line, what was I don't know if you can answer this. What was your perspective of last year watching him afar and how he'll handle that this year with a different scheme than what you guys had?
Yeah, I think Nick's going to be great with everything that he does, and obviously I can't speak on what it's going to look like or how the meeting. I don't know that, I'm not in the building, but I got a ton of confidence in Nick and Kellen to go do their jobs and do it at a high level, which I have no doubt they will. Yeah.